Chapter 16. Research. Ginny had refused to admit she'd been wandering the halls rather than in bed, and it turned out, when Ginevra Weasley wanted to be stubborn about something, no force on the planet would move her. "I don't know what you're talking about. I was asleep," was her final word on the subject. Given that Ron had heard similar denials from her his whole life about things like the state of his belongings, who'd been in the broom shed, and what happened to the last slice of pie, he didn't believe her, but knew there would be no way to get her to confess. And honestly, there was every likelihood she was just out exploring and didn't want to get into trouble. The most Ron figured they could do was keep an eye on the map and catch her in the act the next time. Harry and Hermione weren't quite as sold, and came up with a plan to see if she'd mentioned anything to her friend, and that's how they had their first encounter with Luna Lovegood, the only first year with a quest marker. That the quest marker was silver rather than gold was somewhat confusing. Luna Lovegood Mage, Level 1 Ravenclaw, the Quibbler. The girl had been easy enough to find and talk to, since she was spending Sunday afternoon wandering the grounds on her own. Was generally much harder to get a private word in with students from other houses, since they tended to travel with their friends. No one seemed to want to accompany the girl with nearly white hair as she was strolling along the shore of the lake, skipping to imaginary music, and periodically stopping to squat down and turn over stones on the shore. "Oh, hello, Ron." Luna nodded dreamily as the trio approached, recognizing her friend's brother. "Hey, Luna," Ron acknowledged. "This is Hermione and Harry." "Pleased to meet you," she nodded, as if she was already aware of who they were. "Are you here to help me search the lake for gulping plimpies? I've already found signs of regular plimpies, and I'm trying to prove that they can share the same habitat." "Fay Perk required to accept quest. I'm sorry, but I don't think we'd be able to see them," Harry apologized. "We don't have the right kind of Fay sight. Yet." "A very significant yet," Luna observed. "So why did you come out here?" "We were wondering if you knew why Ginny was out of the dorms last night. We thought she might have been visiting you in the Ravenclaw dorms," Harry suggested. "If she did, she must have been very stealthy, as I didn't see her," Luna considered. "Sadly, I haven't really been able to talk to her outside of Transfiguration and Charms classes. This school doesn't seem to support mingling between houses very well." "You aren't wrong," Hermione sighed. "Did she mention anything unusual when she rode with you on the train?" Harry probed. "I don't understand the question," Luna cocked her head. "I don't find it helpful to think of anything as particularly usual. You get complacent." Nonplussed by the unintentionally evasive answer, Hermione blurted out, "Maybe something about a snake or a chamber of secrets." "No, but that sounds interesting," Luna said. "I could ask Daddy about it. He writes a newspaper and might know something." The trio shared a shrug, the information already out there, and Harry just said, "Yes, please, it may be nothing." "I don't think you'd have come and found me about nothing," Luna nodded. "And now I'm keeping you from the library," she stated blithely, suddenly ignoring them and wandering off along the lake shore. "She's not wrong," Hermione agreed again, clearly a little frustrated at the rude dismissal, but not upset about being sent to the library instead of looking for magical fish. "That's what she's like," Ron shrugged as they walked back to the building. "It said I couldn't accept the quest because I don't have the Fey perk," Harry recounted, "so it seems likely she's got it." Hermione said, "I hadn't realized until she mentioned it that the quest name might actually be a term we could look up. I think Ron and I should look for this Chamber of Secrets while you look for skill books today, Harry." "Hogwarts, a history," Ron groaned. "For a start," Hermione nodded. They got another few hours in the library over the afternoon and evening. Harry found that Hermione had been right. Without them unshelving books and handing them to him, he really did slow down to about a shelf an hour. Meanwhile, Ron and Hermione had started with her favorite reference book and moved on to books about magical snakes. Harry, a few skill points richer, finally got the briefing shortly before curfew. "I knew that Chamber of Secrets sounded familiar," Hermione explained. "There's a legend that Salazar Slytherin had a secret room in the castle where he kept a monster. After he was driven away, he had threatened that one day his heir would return to unleash the monster and purge the Muggle-born from the school." "Harsh," Harry said, "but it would explain why the Malfoys are behind it." "I should have made him vomit up something worse than slugs," Ron agreed, with a dark look. "Tell him about the snakes." Hermione nodded, producing a parchment where she'd made a list. Several entries had been scratched out, and she summarized, It makes sense that the monster is a snake of some kind, since Salazar Slytherin was probably also a... She looked around and confirmed nobody was lurking in the stacks nearby. Parselmouth. My first thought was that the monster might be a dragon, but you couldn't talk to Norbert last year, right? Harry shook his head. No, none of the sounds he made ever sounded like words. So from what we can find out about magical snakes, the main options are ashwenders, basilisks, boomslangs, horned serpents, archamies, and runespores. She pointed out each on her list as she explained it, and every entry included some short notes on powers. Of course, unless there's a breeding colony somewhere in the school, we're looking at something that could live here for hundreds of years. Basilisk. Ron couldn't wait for her to get to the point. Which is really bad. Harry looked over to where she was pointing at her entry for the basilisk. In her impeccable handwriting she'd listed, King of Serpents, gigantic, deadly venom, murderous stare, instant death, spiders flee, crowing of rooster fatal. There's something loose in the school that can kill you just by looking at you. Harry boggled. Hermione nodded sadly. It's possible you also have to see it, like the old Medusa myth. But yes, I don't know how we'll fight a giant snake that kills you if you even look its way. Maybe just the rooster thing, Ron suggested. If we could somehow get one to crow before we saw the snake. That shouldn't be hard, Harry shrugged. As his friends stared at him in disbelief, he explained, I'll just grab one of Hagrid's right before it's about to crow in the morning and put it in my menagerie. Hedwig doesn't seem to notice that time has passed while she's in there. But if I timed it right, it would finish crowing before it realized it had been moved. That. Work, Ron agreed, after working it through his chessmaster brain. We should get one as soon as possible, Hermione nodded. It's too late to ask Hagrid now, but maybe we can ask him tomorrow, and then you can get up early on Tuesday to slip out and get one. Seems like a plan, Harry said. Oh, hey, I got basic entries for all those snakes in my codex. Hermione smiled at that, but took a moment to broach the subject. I think we may also need to tell an adult, not about the game. She quickly negated. But I think if we just tell the headmaster about Darby and you hearing it speaking, we can explain how we worked it out without mentioning everything else. Harry considered for a long moment before admitting, I guess we'd better, yeah. If it sneaks out at mealtime, it could kill everyone before we could do anything, or at whatever a Death Day party is. The quest log still hadn't changed, even with their new revelations. Oh, I found that out, Hermione remembered. Sir Nicholas died 500 years ago. He's likely going to throw a party for his day of death on Halloween this year. Death Day, got it, Harry nodded. So we've probably got weeks before it's actually going to attack anyone. I wonder why it's waiting that long. Ron guessed. Maybe Malfoy let it out last night just to make sure he could, but it's going to take him that long to find a group of Muggle-born to sick it on. Hermione pursed her lips, annoyed. Right. It's likely being controlled by Draco, not just loose in the school. I guess that does give us some time, Harry mused. Maybe we can just go down to this chamber and kill it before Draco can release it again. I wonder why it's not on the map. If anyone would know, it would be the Marauders, Ron suggested. No more putting it off, I guess, Harry nodded. So we're not telling the headmaster yet. Hermione checked, knowing the answer. I think he likes us to solve problems ourselves, Harry nodded. Plus, it's my quest, and I bet it will be worth a lot less XP if we just let Dumbledore solve it. Hermione wasn't totally sure that logic was sound, but figured she'd have more luck working on the boys, gradually, than insisting they tell an adult right away. She had learned something in the last year beyond school subjects, after all, and maybe Hagrid would be suspicious enough to ask the right questions, tell the headmaster, and leave her hands clean of being a tattletale. Why DA want a rooster? Hagrid asked when they went to visit him between classes on Monday afternoon. Harry's eyes widened, not having anticipated the simple question, and Hermione nodded to herself. But she hadn't counted on Harry's basic deception skill. Prank on Fred and George, he shrugged. They like to sleep in. We've figured out a magical way to keep the rooster healthy but hidden. They're going to go crazy wondering where the crowing is coming from. Hagrid hummed for a moment, then said, As long as he won't be harmed, I guess Thar's all right. I think something from the woods went after I am the other night, how he was hidden. Hermione blinked at that statement, which seemed a little too coincidental. Maybe he's safer inside for a while. How long do you need I am for? Hopefully only a week or two, Harry shrugged. Fair enough. Should teach you all about caring for a chicken, but bring I am back if he starts to have any problems. Of course, Harry nodded, noting that he'd accrued enough XP that his skill had ranked up. I'll get him tomorrow morning. That way they won't suspect anything. The rooster capture went off as well as he'd hoped, Harry invisibly sneaking up on the poor bird and shoving him into the menagerie moments before he could begin crowing for the sunrise. And that was as much time as they had for the Chamber of Secrets for the rest of the week. Between mounting homework and Oliver Wood's Quidditch schedule, his evenings were booked solid. He barely got to squeeze in a couple more shelves between classes. Madam Pince seemed impressed by his newfound interest in the library. During the classes themselves that week, Harry was feeling pretty awesome about himself. He'd gotten several points from McGonagall and Flitwick for being the first to succeed at spells in their classes, as well as a kind word from Sprout about his deft potting. And in potions class, between his improved owl potion skill and the spellbook to give him the exact steps and stirring motions, he'd managed to complete his assignment so well even Snape couldn't find fault with it, though the dour potioneer was suspicious that he was cheating somehow. It, of course, mattered much less in history, defense, or astronomy, which were purely information rather than practical, for all that defense was supposed to be practical. At least he had determined that if he was attempting to pay attention, the information about goblin wars and constellations his teachers were talking about were entered into his codex. There wasn't much useful about Lockhart's teaching, however. Rather than unlocking any codex entries, getting new spells, or improving his owl combat magic skill, Harry had actually gained a rank of basic acting from being forced to help the foppish professor act out scenes from his novels. Nearly all the boys in their class were so over it only 2 weeks in, but all the girls other than Hermione still seemed smitten. Well, Hermione was still smitten, but she was at least annoyed that she wasn't getting a practical education from the class. Finally, though, after Quidditch practice on Friday evening brought a chance to work on their bigger problem. Fred, George, and Lee banned any other visitors from the fourth-year boys' dorm room as Harry, Ron, and Hermione slipped in. With the light of September's full moon streaming into the tower room, Harry focused on his intention and tried to contact the elder marauders. Chapter 17. Reply. Marauders Harry Potter. Hi, this is Harry Potter. You're not going crazy. All the others in the room gave Harry a thumbs up that they'd heard his voice in their heads as it appeared in his chat log. Marauders Harry Potter. We figured out how to use the Marauders map to contact you. That was, at least, the explanation that everyone had finally brainstormed. As far as they knew, not even Dumbledore had magic powerful enough to speak into someone's mind from a distance, but maybe James Potter's friends would believe that the map could create such a power. Marauders Harry Potter. If you want to reply, just think about what you want to say and I'll hear it. And then they just sat, looking at Harry expectantly. He wasn't sure if the three men would reply immediately or if Sirius Black replies. Harry. Little Harry. The map, of course, the map. Harry began verbally recounting the replies to his friends, not sure whether to be worried about how staccato and disjointed Black's reply was. Sirius Black replies, Are you at Hogwarts? How old are you now? Please don't be a dream. Before he could get worried about that reply, he was surprised by another of his father's friends. Peter Pettigrew replies, Harry, this is dangerous. Are you talking to Remus and Sirius too? You can't trust them. Well, that's a surprise, Fred said, upon hearing the response. Do you think they had a falling out? George checked. I wonder if I can reply to them individually, Harry realized. They probably should have experimented with it more before attempting this. Reply to Sirius Black, yes, I'm at Hogwarts. No, I'm not a dream. Reply to Peter Pettigrew, why can't I trust them? I guess I can, Harry nodded, waiting for the reply. Sirius Black replies, of course. Of course you're not a dream. It would be too good of a dream. Peter Pettigrew replies, Sirius is a murderer. He's in prison, and Remus is a werewolf. Harry explained both of those statements to his friends, and everyone but Hermione seemed aghast at the idea of Remus Lupin being a werewolf. She just nodded and said, From that name, that probably makes sense. Everyone turned to stare at her and she rolled her eyes. Romulus and Remus. From Rome, raised by a she-wolf, if I remember correctly. And Lupin sounds like the French word for wolf. Werewolves are really dangerous, Lee cautioned. In fact, I guess he won't reply, or he'll just reply with howls. He was looking out the dorm window at the rising full moon. Reply to Peter Pettigrew, who did serious murder. There was a long pause before Pettigrew responded. Peter Pettigrew replies, I didn't want you to find out like this, but your parents. Harry scoffed as he relayed that to his friends. You know who killed your parents, though, George said. Famous for it, Fred nodded. Reply to Peter Pettigrew, Voldemort killed my parents. Peter Pettigrew replies, but Sirius gave them up to him and nearly killed me. I've been in hiding. Sirius Black replies, Harry, are you still there? What do I do? Harry asked. Ask him for his side of it, Hermione suggested. Reply to Sirius Black, Peter says that you gave my parents up to Voldemort. Sirius Black replies, the rat, ask your professors if he's dead. He faked his death, framed me. Reply to Sirius Black, he said he had to because you nearly killed him. Sirius Black replies, I will if I find him. He gave up your parents. He was a spy all along. You have to believe me. Whoa, Ron gasped as Harry summed everything up. They're both blaming each other, Lee mused. Maybe tomorrow you can ask Lupin which one is telling the truth. If one of them is telling the truth, Fred reasoned. That means the other was a spy for you-know-who, George nodded. Hermione realized they really might know about Malfoy in the chamber. If we can trust them, Ron frowned. Say you're running out of time with the magic and ask. Marauders, Harry Potter, the spell is about to run out. I was calling to ask if you knew about the Chamber of Secrets. It's been opened, probably by Lucius Malfoy. Sirius Black replies, you're in danger. I heard about the chamber. We never found it, though, Malfoy. He's a Death Eater. Peter Pettigrew replies, ask Hagrid about it. I heard he was there the last time it opened. Be careful, Harry. Harry didn't follow up but sighed and said, well, that wasn't what I was hoping for. Hermione thought about it and suggested, it sounds like one of your father's friends betrayed him, and they all blame each other. Ron's strategic brain worked out, and it's possible that the werewolf is the real traitor, and he turned Pettigrew and Black against each other. Who knows what he'd have said if he wasn't all wolfy right now. Fred summed up, so we can't trust any of them. But probably two of them are okay, and just one is a traitor, George added. Too bad I can't just get a look at them all, Harry grumbled. It would be really easy to see which one was the Death Eater that way. Hey, that's right, Ron realized. We should figure out how to meet them in person and find out. Well, it would be easier for Lupin and Pettigrew. If they're both clean, Black probably is the traitor. Lee suggested. Until then, try to only believe anything that at least two of them tell you is true. Harry nodded, feeling slightly better about it. Let's go ask Hagrid about it tomorrow. Maybe he'll know something about the Marauders, too. Hermione grinned to herself. Maybe now Hagrid would clue into there being something he'd need to pass to Dumbledore. The big man was very surprised the next afternoon to have 6 Gryffindors show up at his hut right after morning Quidditch practice. Dunno if I got a new tea for everyone, he said, ushering them in and trying to make space. It's okay, Harry waved him off. Lunch is in a minute anyway, we just had a couple of questions. Ulrig, go ahead, Hagrid offered, once everyone seemed at least slightly comfortable in the one-room cottage. My dad's friends, Harry led with. Peter Pettigrew, Sirius Black, and Remus Lupin. Hagrid got a sad look but nodded. Black is in prison for killing Pettigrew. The big man nodded, and that weren't the worst o' it, but I darn wanna upset ye, Harry said, also for betraying my parents to Voldemort. I guess ye already knew that then, Hagrid allowed. He also blew up a bunch of muggles along why Peter, weren't even nothing left of the poor lad but his finger. Peter's alive, Harry shook his head, and Hagrid's eyes widened. He says he's been hiding from Death Eaters, even with Sirius in jail. I guess he faked his death. But why'd he wanna do something like that for? Hagrid wondered. We'd have protected him here. He's a hero. And there were bigger targets, that lot that haven't had ter hide. What if, Harry said, thinking about whether to just spit it out and decided to. What if Pettigrew was a spy and framed Black? He paused a moment and added, or could Lupin have played both of them? Well, Hagrid considered, his mind a little blown by the revelation, so much so that he hadn't even thought to ask how Harry had been talking to Peter. I know they didn't trust poor Remus much there at the end, because he's a werewolf. Hermione couldn't help but venture. Aye, Hagrid agreed, starting to wonder where the kids were getting all this information. Maybe Harry had found an old journal from his father, but he can't help it. Great chap, had a hard life. We just knew there had ter be a spy during the war, and nobody wanted ter blame any o' them, but he were the easiest. Seemed unfair, especially once it turned out it was Sirius. But if Pettigrew is alive, it could have been him, Harry prompted. I'd want to hear his side o' it, but yeah, Hagrid allowed. I'd never wanted to think it was Sirius. All four o' them boys were best friends, but your father and Sirius were like brothers. And Peter was always well. He weren't the strongest o' the four, that's for sure. If any o' them could be turned, that probably was not what Pettigrew had wanted when he sent them to talk to Hagrid. Maybe he thought the groundskeeper was fonder of him. It did remind Harry to ask his second question. Another thing Pettigrew mentioned. He said you were here when the Chamber of Secrets was opened. That abrupt change in topic caused Hagrid to shift, a full body twitch rushing up his body. Yeah, I darn like to talk about it. I guess I mentioned it in passing to them. What happened? Hermione prompted. It took several seconds, but Hagrid finally allowed. It were when I was a student here. Bunch of kids got put in comas. Then a girl died. I had a pet at the time. Thar got blamed, so I got blamed. The attacks stopped after they ran poor Aragog out, and then after they expelled me. But Aragog never hurt nobody. We never did find out what really happened. Aragog isn't a snake, is he? Harry checked. Nah, he's a spider, Hagrid revealed. Ron twitched involuntarily at the idea of the kind of spider Hagrid would keep as a pet. Personally, I always thought that Tom Riddle muster had something to do why it. He were the prefect that turned me in, Slytherin, of course. I've seen his name on a trophy, Ron realized. He got it for turning me in, Hagrid grumbled. If we prove it was Tom Riddle, maybe we can clear your name, Hermione realized. The Chamber of Secrets, main quest. Dark conspiracies are afoot at Hogwarts. Get to Hogwarts, overhear a strange whispering O, attend a Death Day party O, optional. Prove Hagrid wasn't responsible for the last time the chamber opened. I dunno how ye'd go about doing that, the big man shrugged. But that would be great. Still hesitant to fully loop in Hagrid, they made their way to lunch while tossing around a few ideas on the walk across the grounds. Basically, all they could think was showing someone at the ministry the body of the presumed basilisk once they'd slain it. The Weasleys claimed that their father knew people in the department in charge of magical creatures, who ought to be able to tell a centuries-old snake from a spider Hagrid had been raising in the 1940s. You know, George realized, Hagrid never said they killed his pet spider. And if it escaped into the forest, Fred agreed, that would explain all the big spiders we've seen in the shadows out there. Stop it, Ron insisted. I don't even want to think about that. Both twins shot Harry a look that said they were probably not joking. It would be just like Hagrid to let a magical giant spider loose that could then start to breed. Any further discussion over lunch was stopped when daily prophet owls began to arrive just after the food. Must be a special edition, Hermione said. Indeed, the lightweight version of the paper, only a few hours after the morning edition, seemed to be only the front page and have but a single article. The sound was rippling across the great hall, and before they could catch a glimpse of the headline, someone nearby shouted it aloud. Sirius Black escapes from Azkaban. The prisoner of Azkaban, main quest. A secret from your past has escaped. Get to Hogwarts, learn about the crimes of Sirius Black. Harry suddenly realized that they must have provoked Black to escape prison. And the fact that this was a main quest, before they'd even finished the first main quest. All he could think to say was, well, damn it. Chapter 18. Run. Marauders, Harry Potter. We talked to Hagrid about the chamber. Also, Sirius, you escaped from prison. Marauders, Harry Potter. Also, hey, Remus. Hope you're feeling better today. This is a Marauders map spell. Think about replying to talk to me. Peter Pettigrew replies, Sirius escaped from Azkaban. Oh no, oh no. Remus Lupin replies, wait, what? Sirius Black replies, you're in danger. I'm coming to help. Harry had grabbed Ron and Hermione and found a corner of the library after lunch for the renewed conversation and was relaying it to them. Tell him not to come help, Hermione insisted. That's crazy. Reply to Sirius Black, you can't come here. This is the first place they'd look for you. They think you're coming to kill me. The article had suggested that very thing. It seemed that everyone assumed Sirius Black would try to finish what he'd started. Sirius Black replies, don't worry, I'll be careful. That's not reassuring, Ron groused. Reply to Remus Lupin, I figured out how to talk to the Marauders. You were wolfy last night, so you missed the explanation. I may have accidentally convinced Sirius to break out to try to come help me, he says. Peter says he's a criminal. Remus Lupin replies, this is a lot. Sirius escaped Azkaban. Wait, Peter's dead. Reply to Remus Lupin, no, he's in hiding. Says he faked his death to hide from Sirius. Sirius says that Peter was the spy and faked his death to frame Sirius. Remus Lupin replies, I need a minute to think about this. I guess werewolves have post-transformation hangovers, Hermione mused. He doesn't sound well. See if you can get Peter to come to Hogwarts, Ron suggested. Reply to Peter Pettigrew, you should come to Hogwarts. Dumbledore would protect you. Peter Pettigrew replies, I can't. I'm already out of the country, hopefully far from Sirius. That's either suspicious or good planning, Hermione pouted. And I guess it confirms that you basically have unlimited range. Already out of the country, Ron picked up. You think he left recently, but he just found out about Black. Fortunate holiday timing, Harry shrugged. Reply to Sirius Black, I'm talking to Remus now. He's up. He's not a spy, right? Sirius Black replies, good, loyal Remus. We never should have doubted him. It was Peter. Peter convinced us Remus might be the spy. Reply to Sirius Black, okay, thanks. Lay low, I guess. They'll definitely have people looking for you here. Sirius Black replies, it may take me some time to get there anyway. Never did master apparating without a wand. Though maybe if I could sneak into a flue, reply to Sirius Black, they'd definitely notice you jumping out of somebody's fireplace. Sirius Black replies, good point. It's great to have someone to help me plan again. I've missed you so much, James. Reply to Sirius Black, I'm Harry. Sirius Black replies, yes, of course. Sorry, you sound like he did when we were young. Maybe he's not a traitor, but he sounds crazy, Hermione stressed. Ron was thinking aloud, so Peter says don't trust either of them. But Black says just don't trust Peter. He decided on the strategy. See what Lupin thinks. Reply to Remus Lupin. Sirius claims he escaped to try to protect me. And he says I can trust you, but Peter doesn't. What do you say? Remus Lupin replies, and both of them are taking your voice in their head in stride. This is powerful magic. We never built it into the map. Remus Lupin replies, but yes, I can see no reason Wormtail wouldn't go to the Ministry or Dumbledore if he survived. I feel terrible that I never went to talk to Padfoot. Wait, Hermione realized, doing the word problem with her genius-level intelligence. If Wormtail is Pettigrew and Padfoot is Black, then that means Lupin is either Prongs or Moony. If he's Moony, it must have been a clue that he was a werewolf. Because of the moon. Maybe the other names mean something. Reply to Remus Lupin, you're Moony, sir. Is it because of, well, last night? What do the other names mean? Remus Lupin replies, I don't think I should share that, just in case you're tricking me. But it might be important if Padfoot is loose. Reply to Remus Lupin, I can just ask him. Reply to Sirius Black, Moony is a werewolf. Why are you Padfoot and Pettigrew is Wormtail? Are you werewolves too? Sirius Black replies, no, but we did figure out how to transform to keep Moony company, like old McGonagall. They're animagi. Hermione would have shouted if she didn't respect the library so much. That must be how he escaped. The article didn't mention that he was registered. They must not have known to guard against him transforming. Reply to Sirius Black, what are you? And what's Peter, so I'd know if I saw him? Sirius Black replies, you won't warn anyone. Reply to Sirius Black, Number Remus confirmed that you're probably innocent. He says he's sorry he didn't visit. Peter says he already left the country. Sirius Black replies, of course he did, the rat, which is what he is, a fat grey rat, probably missing a toe on his front right paw, from when he faked his death in front of me. I'm a big black dog. Reply to Remus Lupin. Sirius told me he's a black dog, and that Peter is a grey rat missing the finger he cut off. Remus Lupin replies, well, then you're certainly getting your information from somewhere valid, you strange voice claiming to be Harry Potter. Ron's eyes had widened and he'd gone pale, and Harry and Hermione finally noticed after that exchange with Lupin. What is it? Hermione checked. Scabbers is a grey rat, who was missing a toe, Ron gasped, and showed up at your house right after my parents died, and lived way longer than a rat should have, Harry remembered. But his nameplate just said rat, not Scabbers, Wormtail, or Peter Pettigrew. Then we have to assume that Animagi can hide from the game system, just like Professor Snape can, Hermione agreed. We should get Professor McGonagall to transform to verify it. I'm sure that will be easy to persuade her to do, Harry frowned. Guys, I slept in bed with him. I changed clothes in front of him, and he was an old man. Ron continued having his crisis. And I explained the whole game system in front of him. Harry banged his forehead on the table. That's why he ran away. He was worried I'd figure it out somehow. Maybe his name appeared on the map. Marauders, active Harry Potter, Fred or George. Do you remember seeing the name Peter Pettigrew on the map ever? It might have been in our dorm. Fred Weasley replies, I think so. How'd we forget that? We always assumed it was an upper year we didn't know. George Weasley replies, hard to see what room each name is in on the tower. They all kind of stack up. Fred Weasley replies, is he a ghost or something? George Weasley replies, hiding out in the tower attic this whole time. Reply to Fred Weasley, worse, he was Scabbers. I'll fill you both in later. I guess you should warn the other two about Pettigrew, Hermione suggested. Reply to Sirius Black, we think Peter was posing as my friend's pet rat. He ran off as soon as I got the map. Must have known I'd notice. Reply to Remus Lupin, we think Peter was posing as my friend's pet rat. He ran off as soon as I got the map. Must have known I'd notice. Remus Lupin replies, oh, bother. Sirius Black replies, disable profanity filter. Harry James Potter, you will not, Hermione insisted. He probably shouldn't have narrated that part to her. But how would she know if he turned it off? Harry, she growled at him warningly. Okay, so she'd know somehow. Ron still seemed upset about the Scabbers' revelation and suggested, see if you can get the rat to tell you where he is. Say you're going to send him some cheese or something. Then you can send Black to catch him. Reply to Peter Pettigrew, are you safe? Do you need anything? If you let me know an address, I can send my owl with money or food or something. Deception check failed, R.O., Harry gasped. Peter Pettigrew replies, nice try. I guess the others sided against me. They always did. No, I don't think I'll tell you how to capture me for them to murder. I guess that's that then, Harry sighed. Maybe I should go ahead and try to remove him from the guild so he can't hear us talking. No, wait, Hermione realized. Maybe there's some way to track guild members that you haven't figured out yet. If you remove him, you won't be able to use that. Peter Pettigrew has quit the Marauders. Looks like he made his own decision, Harry explained. I wonder how he realized he could do that. You mentioned guilds in front of him, and that his name was on the list, Ron remembered. What a jerk, Hermione grumbled. She made another pitch. We really should tell the professors about all of this. How will we prove any of it without explaining all of it? Harry asked. Ron, still shaken by the revelation about his beloved pet rat, took a moment to game it out and shook his head. They didn't believe us about Quirrell. This sounds way less believable. Best case, they confiscate the map. We don't have any proof of the chamber or the rat being alive, or even being a rat, except you saying so. I'm sure they'd at least try to verify it, Hermione attempted, knowing it was futile. Neither boy's faces budged, so she just said, fine, why don't we at least learn everything we can about, I guess all of it, while Harry looks for skill books this weekend. I'll find the newspapers. And the yearbooks, Ron relented, his anger at being tricked overcoming his normal reticence to avoid research. I'll see if we can learn more about the Marauders and tick off that quest box for learning about Black. And I'll look up the laws and see what we'd need to get Black another trial for new evidence, she nodded. I'll open up several hundred books to see which ones want to jump into my brain, Harry finished. It was only the total strangeness of the recent situation that was keeping Harry from realizing that he should hate Peter Pettigrew for getting his parents killed. It would come, in time. At the moment, Ron was angry enough for the both of them. They managed to pack in another good 12 hours in the library by Monday and even got their weekend homework done. The rule of one skill book per shelf per hour was holding strangely true, though he had found rather more general skill books than class ones now that he was hitting the grade-level rankings for his mage skills. He was fairly sure he must be passing over some books that would have given him points if his skills weren't too high. But he now knew a little bit about sword fighting and repairing clocks. General skills: advanced English 4 basic acting, 1 basic athletics, 4 basic automotive repair, 1 basic carpentry, 3 basic clockwork, repair 1 basic computer, use 1 basic cooking, 4 basic creature harvesting, 1 basic deception, 4 basic dodging, 2 basic drawing, 1 basic first aid, 3 basic gardening, 3 basic guitar, 1 basic home, repair, 1 basic instance, 1 basic larks, 1 basic martial arts, 3 basic money management, 1 basic persuasion, 3 basic. Sneak 4, basic sword fighting, 1 conversational English 20, conversational French 3, conversational Greek 3, conversational Latin 5 class skills, basic broom, flying 6 owl charms, 6 owl combat, magic 5 owl creature, handling 3 owl divination, 3 owl enchanting, 3 owl muggle navigation, 20 owl plant defense, 4 owl potions, 5 owl spellcrafting, 3 owl transfiguration, 6 seeker broom, flying 3 at breakfast on Monday. Dumbledore stood up at the high table to speak. Students, as you've no doubt learned from the newspaper, Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban prison. While it is uncertain how he accomplished this, the entirety of the Aura force is looking for him, and his picture has been placed with the Muggle news. Bet they're not looking for a dog, Harry muttered to himself. The headmaster continued. He is not in possession of a wand, and would need to cover quite a great deal of Scottish Highland on foot were he to come this way, but the ministry is taking no chances. I have begun discussion with the minister about providing a protective force, just as precaution should he come in this direction. You should not worry. Simply go to class as you always have, and we will inform you if the situation changes. As soon as he sat back down, the question up and down the Gryffindor table was, what's a precautionary force? It was Percy Weasley who suggested, I understand that the Aura department is understaffed at the moment. If they are all out hunting Black, there remain few trained wizards who could stand guard duty. I believe there may be precedent for using the wardens of the prison for this kind of thing. Aren't those just auras set as prison guards? Hermione asked. Oh, no, Percy frowned. Most of the guard work at the prison is done by a particularly powerful type of non-being known as a Dementor. I cannot imagine Sirius Black will want to tangle with one of them again. But I could be wrong. I await whatever the ministry does to protect us. Certainly, we are in no danger regardless. Safest place in the world, Hogwarts. Harry wasn't so sure. After Ron's book report over the weekend on the little known about Sirius, that quest goal had checked off. On Percy's statement, a new one had formed. The Prisoner of Azkaban main quest. A secret from your past has escaped. Get to Hogwarts, learn about the crimes of Sirius Black. Learn about Dementors.